Okay, hi, thanks, and welcome back. I wanted to mention that, I have a lot of stories and techniques to share with you, and they're intended to be very inspirational. But one of the issues is that when I tell you a story of someone changed their life, like using the self-disclosure or the experimental technique or the hidden emotion technique or whatever it happens to be, you may think, well, that technique doesn't seem appropriate for me, and you're right. And so psychiatrists and psychologists use big words, and I'll tell you why. That's because not much is known in our field, unlike physics or biochemistry or medicine. Psychiatry and psychology is primarily a lot of BS. I shouldn't say that. I didn't say that. Edit that out. But it's true. And when you don't know much, you sometimes make up big words, so it sounds like you're very scholarly. And I'm a victim of that myself, because I've made up a lot of words, and one of them is called emotophobia. Ooh, what a big word. But what emotophobia simply means is that some of us, a lot of us, are afraid of negative emotions. We think we shouldn't feel a particular way, so we avoid negative feelings or try to control them or suppress them, and that usually has the effect of making things worse, because you can't not express your feelings. You can't really repress them or suppress them. They're going to come out indirectly. They're going to come out one way or the other. And the following story illustrates this, and it's a pretty wild story. When I was in Philadelphia, a man walked into our emergency room, and he was kind of shouting and screaming out that he was a serial killer and that he was about to go on a killing spree. And he insisted on being put in a straitjacket and involuntarily hospitalized. Well, we didn't have any straitjackets. I don't think they use them anymore, at least not in the United States. But we did hospitalize him on our involuntary unit. And it was really weird because usually when people are involuntarily hospitalized, it's because they're getting suicidal or homicidal, or they're in imminent danger to themselves or others, and so they can be involuntarily hospitalized for 3 days to kind of save their life and settle down. But this man demanded it. And I was also running a daily cognitive therapy group for the inpatient unit, just a 90-minute group. So he was admitted about maybe 11 in the morning, and then they sent him over for my 12 to 1:30 cognitive therapy group for some curative treatment for his serial killing tendencies. And so at the beginning of my groups, I always measure how depressed, anxious, angry, suicidal, etc. the patients are. I have little short tests that are very easy to take and very accurate. The same test we use in the Feeling Great app, or very similar. And I looked at his scores, because then I can see, even though I don't know most of the patients, exactly how they're feeling, how depressed they are, and so forth. And I saw that his anxiety score was, if you think of it on a score of 0 to 100, it was 100. The most intense anxiety a human being can have. And so I asked him if he'd want some help for his anxiety during the group, and he said he definitely would. And I said, well, tell me about yourself and the anxiety, how you got so anxious. And he explained that he was a high school biology teacher at one of the local, high schools near Philadelphia. And he said that he just loved children, and his wife loved children, and he said he worked 60 hours a week preparing lessons for the students, and that every year for the past many years he'd gotten the Teacher of the Year award because he loved the students and they loved him so much. But he said the big tragedy in my life and my wife's life is that we couldn't have children. And we tried and tried, and nothing seemed to work. And we were both kind of in a state of grief about that. And then 2 or 3 days before Christmas, we were, driving to my wife's house in Harrisburg for a Christmas party, and we were on the Highway 76, and my wife started teasing a little bit and saying, I want you to know that I have a special Christmas present for you this year. And he said that he appreciated that. That was really cool. And then she said, now you can wait till Christmas to find out, or if you want, I'll tell you right now. And he says, well, why don't you tell me right now? And she said, okay, the doctor called this morning, and guess what he said? He said I was pregnant. And he said the moment she said that, I had a panic attack and felt like I was going to lose control of the car, so I jammed on the brakes and skidded off onto the shoulder of the road. And I couldn't drive, and so she drove the rest of the way to the Christmas party. But I was intensely panicky, nonstop, and I tried to hide my feelings so people couldn't see how I was feeling, but I just kept feeling anxious and panicky. And then a day or two after Christmas, I went to my favorite place, kind of some kind of taco shop, a fast food place, and ordered my favorite. They have this mega burrito, but I hate beans, and so I order it without beans. And so I explained to the man what I wanted, and he spoke broken English, and he said he understood, and he'd make the special burrito just the way I wanted. And then they called out my number, and I went to the cash register, and it was in a paper bag, and I paid for it, and I said, this was now another man at the cash register. Now I said, I want to make sure this is a bean-free burrito because I hate beans. And then the two men talked in Spanish, and he says, I can assure you that's just the kind of burrito you want. So I got in the car and I drove home and went in the kitchen and got out a plate, and I dumped the burrito on the plate, and it was a massive bean burrito, and it really ticked me off. And I was just enraged, so I got the fork and started jabbing at it like this, and the beans splattered and went onto the wall and then started dripping down the wall. And I like these detective shows on TV where they have these experts that analyze blood spatter patterns, and it looked like that, like blood trickling down the wall. And then I had the thought, and by the way, this is very common in people prone to anxiety and obsessions, and I had the thought, what if I had not a fork in my hand, but a knife? And what if I wasn't stabbing this burrito, but what if I lost control and started stabbing other people? And that thought totally freaked me out. And I didn't sleep 1 minute that night. That was last night. And when I woke up this morning, I thought, I told my wife, I finally confessed, I said, sweetheart, I've been having panic attacks, and I think I'm going to go on a killing spree and start stabbing people to death. And I can't control myself, and I need to be hospitalized and involuntarily hospitalized. And so she panicked, and they drove at high speed to our hospital. And then I went into the emergency room and announced that I was a serial killer about to go killing people, and they hospitalized me, and that's what's happened. And so I started thinking about this. Now, what's happening. And one of the techniques I use in treating anxiety is called the hidden emotion model. And that's based on the idea that a lot of people who are prone to anxiety, which is likely to be you if you're watching, and that some people, some of us are just raised or born to be so nice and think we shouldn't have certain kind of negative feelings. And so when we have certain feelings or get upset about something, we sweep it under the rug, telling ourselves, I shouldn't feel the way I do. And that's called emotophobia, which is just a fancy word for saying the fear of your feelings, the fear of negative emotions, thinking you should be perfect all the time, you should be happy all the time. And so I was suspicious maybe something like that what was going on. And I said, this came on the moment your wife told you, I'm pregnant. And you've said that you've always wanted children, you love kids, so that's proof of you, at the high school. The kids adore you, and you're a fantastic teacher. But I'm wondering if you had some negative feelings at the same time when your wife said, I'm pregnant. What were you feeling at that moment? And he says, Doc, you read me like a book. And I said, okay, what were you feeling? Maybe you had some negative feelings about having a child. Maybe you were ambivalent. And he said exactly. You see, doctor, I do love children, but then I got to thinking, wow, I'm working 60 hours a week, and then there's going to be baby waking up in the middle of the night and changing diapers, and I just began to think that maybe having a baby isn't, as totally wonderful as I think it's going to be, and I have mixed feelings, and I'm ashamed because a father shouldn't feel this way. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, a father should love his baby. He shouldn't have negative feelings about having a baby. I said, oh, is that so? Let's see if that's true. And then I asked the group, how many of you have kids? Put your hands up, and almost all the hands went up. And then I said, how many of you with children sometimes have negative feelings about your children, get pissed off at your children? All the hands went up. And I said, I think it's very normal to have negative feelings about your children. My wife and I have two beautiful, wonderful children, but children aren't beautiful and wonderful all the time. Sometimes they're a pain in the ass, and we get pissed off at them. And to me, that's perfectly normal. And he says, I can't believe what you're telling me. He says, I thought this was very abnormal. I'm beginning to feel a little bit better right now. And then I said, and I wonder why you haven't told your wife how you're feeling. And he said, oh, it would kill her. If she knew that I have mixed feelings about becoming a father, a parent, she would be devastated. And that's another common thing about anxiety. You're holding your feelings in because you think other people don't feel this way and they're going to judge me if they find out how I feel. And I said, I think that's another distortion you're involved in. I bet your wife has all kinds of negative feelings about you, about life, about, being a mother, about everything. And I don't think she'd be destroyed at all. I think that talking about your feelings could bring you closer together as a couple. And he said, Dr. Burns, this is fantastic. Are you sure? Are you telling me the truth? I said, well, you can find out. She's coming in for a meeting with the social worker, and you can meet together, and you can tell her in that meeting. But I can tell you that I think your feelings are totally normal. The only problem is the belief that you shouldn't feel that way and that you should keep it secret from your wife. I get insecure all the time, and I talk to my wife, and she helps me out. She supports me. We try to love each other and support each other. And I said, how are you feeling now? He says, Dr. Burns, my anxiety just disappeared. It's gone to zero. And then he went after the group, and met with his wife. I said, tell the social worker, tell your wife you need to talk about this. And he told his wife, and they hugged and cried together and felt incredible love for each other. And then he told his doctor, should a person who's feeling intense joy be involuntarily hospitalized? And because he said, I think I'm ready for discharge. And they just discharged him at 3 in the afternoon. He came in at 11 o'clock, was involuntarily hospitalized, and he was discharged 4 hours later. That's the story of the hidden emotion technique. And sometimes when you're anxious, there's something that you're feeling that you're hiding from yourself. And it may be hard to bring it to conscious awareness. I figured it out really fast for him, but it's usually hard to figure it out and often takes a few days or even longer before you can figure out that hidden problem. But once you figure it out and bring it to conscious awareness, and then you share the feelings you've been hiding, or you solve the problem you've been avoiding, that's when the change occurs. And the change can be, and usually is in my experience, rapid and dramatic. So that's just one of 40 or 50 or 100 techniques that you can use to overcome your anxiety and feel much greater joy and liberation in your life. And one reason I like the hidden emotion model, you see, Freud, everyone worships Freud. He had all these big words and id, ego, and superego. It was just bullshit he just made up. And it's not even scientifically valid, most of the stuff that he said. But there was some truth in what he said, and I used some of his notions and some of the techniques. But one thing he said is anxiety is the mysterious emotion. It strikes like lightning and hits from out of the blue without rhyme or reason. And I can tell you that that's never true. Anxiety never comes from out of the blue. It never hits without rhyme or reason. You get anxious, whether it's panic attacks or OCD or chronic worrying or whatever, because usually, it's not as true of every person, but 75% of the people who are anxious, because you're used to sweeping your feelings under the rug. You're nice, and you think you should be nice and sweet all the time and never be angry. You never have negative feelings, and that's the cause. One thing I love about the hidden emotion technique is when, if it works for you, what you discover is that the ultimate cause of anxiety is the fear of the self. That you're afraid of yourself and your own emotions. And one of the reasons that I love this technique so much is that in getting over anxiety, if the hidden emotion technique is the thing that does it for you, it's not like you're getting help for some defectiveness that you have, but rather you're discovering that there's more meaning to being human than what you thought. And that's accepting all of yourself, your positive and negative emotions alike. And that's kind of a neat thing. And the last thing I want to say about the hidden emotion technique is, if it works for you, then you're finally and totally and irreversibly cured. Words I'm not allowed to say, and so I didn't just say them. But that's the good news. And the even better news is that your anxiety will come back over and over again for the rest of your life, guaranteed. Now, why is that the even better news? This is the last part of the story. It was a little quiz for you, and I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. And then, so I want you to turn off your whatever you're watching this on. Maybe you're watching this on CNN. I'm having a secret feed with Anderson Cooper on CNN. Not really. But at any rate, figure out, why is it a great thing? Why is your anxiety not a mental disorder, but actually a tremendous asset? And then jot something down on a piece of paper, and then once you're done, once you have a guess, and if you can't think, just say, I have no idea, or if you have some loony idea, put it down, and then come on back, and I'll give you the answer. Okay, here's the answer. Some of us, including this guy, have this thing I think we're born with, actually, that you have a tendency to sweep your feelings under the rug so you don't always know how you're feeling. Like you could be upset about something, angry with somebody, but consciously you can't remember. All you know is that you suddenly started having panic attacks or health anxiety or worrying or a phobia or something. And that's your body's way of telling you there's something you're not attending to. There's some issue, problem that you need to express, or a problem you need to try to solve, or some feelings you need to share with somebody. And then the moment you do that, your anxiety will go away. And so that's why the hidden emotion technique is such a cool thing, so that you give your symptoms of anxiety a new meaning. And whenever you're suddenly getting anxious, and I do this myself because it happens to me, often I'll suppress some conflict, I'm angry with someone, and then I feel like the world is coming to an end, and then I have to ask myself, oh, are you upset with somebody, David? And then when I figure out what it is and attend to it, the feeling of dread and anxiety disappears. And so you can think of it like that. You may never figure out or adjust to where you'll know all of your feelings in real time. But if you're suppressing something important, your body will tell you, that's your subconscious mind giving you a signal. Hey, David or Sue or whatever your name is, there's something in your life going on that your feelings are important, and you need to attend to them. And so that's a new way of thinking about anxiety. It's actually your friend, and it's just your body giving you a signal. And if you want to learn more, there's many resources for you. For one thing, you might want to try my Feeling Great app, which is kind of like a computerized or automated version of myself in a way. It's a bot that talks to you, it empathizes with you, and it's learning all of these techniques. We're training it to use the same kinds of techniques that I use in my Feeling Great therapy that I've developed over the last 40 years or so. And you can try a free ride on it. You can go to the app stores and find it, or you can go and check it out at feelinggreat.com. That's one word, Feeling Great. Or you can also go to one of our YouTube channels, the Feeling Great YouTube channel or my Feeling Good YouTube channel. And I have tons of free resources as well on my own website, which is feelinggood.com. And so the idea is there's tons more ways to learn and grow. I'm a strong believer in self-help, and I'm a strong believer in things that don't cost a whole lot of money, but that can change people's lives. And so if any of that sounds good to you, check out the various offerings, and maybe hop on the train with us and see what we can do together.